Hi, I'm Peter Bell, and I'm here with Mr. Peter Clousey, Director of Silver Bullet Mines. Hello, Peter.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
uh, Doing pretty well. It's a bit of a chaotic week out there, right? First week in July, Fed Day, lots
Yep.
going on, and it seems like lots of people losing their heads a little bit too, is what I'm getting the sense of, you know?
Well,
So,
in my world, I've had to keep my head down this week because we've received conditional listing approval and we're close to financing. We have operations on site, and we're just sticking to our knitting and getting our jobs done. So
yeah,
the Fed can do whatever it wants. It won't affect me any.
that's been kind of the solace for me too, is that to get a little bit away from some of the noise that you get day-to-day
Yep.
market action and just focus on things that you can do well. And that's one of the things that drew me to this Silver Bullet story. There's a lot, and I spent
There's a
a lot of
lot.
time studying it, and I've been chatting about it online quite a bit too already publicly. And I look forward to seeing what happens, because I can see a lot of things coming down the pipe on this one, but I also expect surprises too. So
Well, let me simplify it for you. We own 5 past-producing silver mines near Globe, Arizona. And Globe is like Timmins or Sudbury. Those exist to support mining. It's a great place to be. We're the first of those 5 mines back into production in Q4 of this year. So that will be mitigating revenue. The mining industry is all about mitigating risk. We're going to minimize it by being in revenue, which is a pretty...
yeah, I love it.
And then we have the other 4 mines that we can bring into production as well. The second one to go into production will be the Millen mine. Incidentally, the source of the legend of the Lone Ranger.
Yeah, this whole history of the Silver Bullets. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so that legend started at the McMorris mine years and years ago.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It is. It's geologically, it's a fascinating part of the world. I'm planning on being down for a site visit in September because I want to see what a 7-foot wide silver vein looks like.
Yep.
And at the like there's not much to add after that, right? At the Buckeye.
Well, but you're only on mine number 3, and you're talking about 5 mines?
Yeah. Plus the entire basin, which we own 100%, appears to be underlain by a porphyry. Except a porphyry is usually high tonnage, low grade. And if we do have a porphyry, it's high tonnage, high grade. The copper in the soils is running obscene numbers.
Yeah.
I know there's so much to talk about this property, but yet it's so simple.
Well, and the thing for me is the patented claims too. You know,
Yep.
The fact that you have that anchor position where you can just go in there and get to work, and you don't have to worry about permitting timelines. It's a lot simpler.
Yep.
And some of this other ground, you're in a park. So
Yep.
Forest Service permitting can be a bit of a nightmare, right?
Right. And we own our own assay lab. So that eliminates costs and risk due to the inability to get your assay results back. We own our own underground drill. We own our own mill facility. We can control our costs like no one else can.
So unusual.
It is.
I've been focused on Newfoundland and stuff like that the last few months, and what a scramble it is out there to find people and equipment to do work, you know, and to pivot and to look more in Arizona when, you know, I've looked at Globe before, and I was always really impressed by that big open pit copper mine that they have there. And I always thought Miami or whatever, I don't know the names and the history of all that, but boy, that's a big mine, you know. And then to start, I've only just recently started learning about the silver history, and I had no idea about the stuff with the Apache Indians and then Silver Bullets, like all these wild stories. So, you know, for me, I look at it like the best deals get better. And this Globe, Arizona area was a good area for me. I didn't really have any way to invest in it. And then just having found you guys in the last, I don't know, month or two. Look at it this way. It's very helpful.
If we execute on the plan that we've laid out, and we've been very vocal about the plan, so you know that we have a high degree of confidence in it. We will be in production at the Buckeye in Q4 this year. If the case, then the most fascinating document will be our financial statements that will come out at the end of February 2022. Not for the revenue number, because we'll just be ramping up. But from those financial statements, you'll be able to get a good feel for our operating costs. And once you know our operating costs, all you have to do is make an assumption about grade of silver going through. Then you can figure out what our free cash flow is going to be. That'll be exciting.
Well, some people have some pretty, making some of those assumptions about grade starts to make people uncomfortable too, right? Because there's some high grade silver in there. And, I don't know of anybody who has a mine plan with anything close to what the historic production numbers were, because everybody's trying to put them into production like a new mine. And it's, why don't we go back to what they were doing 100 years ago? And can we have another look at that? Like a small scale, fast, high grade, high profit. Like that's a great story for a junior.
And that's basically what we're doing. The processing technologies have advanced around the world. God, look at Energy Fuels processing rare earths in the continental U.S. But sometimes the old ways are the best ways. And when you're processing this kind of native silver, the old technologies from the 40s and 50s is the best technologies.
Yeah.
It's not complicated. It's so easy that a lawyer could even run it.
Well, and that's the other fun thing for me too, getting to know you guys the last couple months or whatever. I didn't know you, Peter, at all. I think you reached out to me around PDAC and were like, Peter Bell, do you want to do an interview? And I don't think I replied. I was like, oh man, and oh boy, I don't know about that. Get me talking. We don't know where it's going to go, right? So
at PDAC, I just wanted to talk to more people. I was stuck here at home. I had my computer. I just reached out to a variety of people I knew. I wound up making new friends.
I've seen that in the group of people around you and these deals. Is there's lots of community builders, and I think that's important.
Our CEO and I go back about 25 years. We've known each other so long we can't remember where we met. The CFO and I have been together since 2004 as a business partnership.
Yeah.
Mr. Wortell, I've known Ron Wortell since probably 2001. He's on the board and he's a mining engineer. John's known the Murphy family for an incredibly long time. So this is a group of people who have known each other, who do believe in community, working together, and making money together for the shareholders.
I love them. I love the Murphy connection too. The locals in the town who mining engineers, mining educators. Like, oh man, what a final piece of the puzzle. That again, this stuff in Newfoundland that I saw recently, and how important it was to have local people who really know how to get work done. To see that in place with this one is great. CSR
is so important, both as a means of social license, but also so you feel good about yourself at the end of the day. We made that community better by being there is a very powerful statement.
Yeah. And I looked at comparables. There's kind of one other story that came public maybe 6 or 8 months ago now, and they've been on a big run, Gold Mountain, GMTN. And they have a story about a new production plan with a ore purchase agreement. Don't call it toll milling, but call it ore purchase. I think they're selling their stuff to New Afton, and they have kind of like a higher grade blend that they can provide that helps boost, that mine's head grade. So that is kind of like the one other story where I've seen somebody come to market with a new production story, kind of fast timeline, but it's BC, and it's a very different story from Arizona. It's a good mining. They're in a good mining neighborhood in BC, and they're getting respect in the market for it. But I still feel like it's a little easier in Arizona to get it done.
There's a gentleman I met on Twitter of all places, whose handle is the Due Diligence Guy.
Yes,
and he's invented or refined the concept of the pre-production sweet spot.
Oh, beautiful.
When a mine is in the pre-production sweet spot, it's when you want to be writing your biggest check.
Yes.
Because most of the risk has been wrung out of the program. You've proved the resources there. You've done your relationships with First Nations and other communities that are nearby. You've sunk the costs. The inevitable mistakes have happened. You've corrected them. You've moved on. You're almost in production. You're almost in cash flow. That's the pre-production sweet spot.
Yeah, and Lobo is a legend. I remember years ago hearing him give that speech at the Sprott Symposium in Vancouver in the summer and just being like, wow, you're really blown away. You're hearing that almost 5 years ago now, and it was work he'd done maybe years before that too. So this is an idea that Lobo Tigre has known about for a long time, and it's a well-known idea in the literature too, right? Like the pregnancy period, sometimes they call it the pregnancy period, I think, or something like this, some of the engineers. So, the statistics on it are just way skewed to the positive side on stock returns around new production stories like that. There's definitely some disaster scenarios too, right? But one thing that really strikes me about what you guys are doing is you're launching something new into the market at that stage. And so normally that happens with a company that's already public and there's the maturing process and it's okay, the market already knows about it. The shares have a chance to kind of trade and discount what's coming. We don't have that with you because you're coming straight into an RTO here. You've raised money privately. The shell is whatever it is. And the valuation numbers, I think, are conservative, which is good because then it gives people a reason to buy. You don't want it overpriced out of the gate.
When we were structuring this transaction, Peter, we made a conscious decision to undervalue the mining assets. As I described to the CEO, if we get taken out, let's say we get 3 mines in production, it is inevitable that one of the intermediates is going to show up with a book and take us out. When we get taken out, does it really matter if you own 6 or 7% of the company? No. Yeah. Correct answer. We're going to undervalue the asset so that the financing is a success. And it's obvious we did the right thing because we set out to raise $3 million and wound up raising 6. And even as of this morning, because we have conditional listing approval, we are turning away money. As a team, we could have raised a lot more.
Yeah.
So
you also don't want to overcapitalize. It's good to be cheap, but then sometimes when things are cheap, people overcapitalize or they do deals, they bring in the wrong shareholders, short-term guys who are going to strip warrants and do things like that. And so all of these things kind of it's really tough to balance all these things. And all the homework I've done is I've been very surprised with what you guys have done. There's not many people who try to even tackle this plan, let alone accomplish it.
And by raising the $6 million, we've been able to rate a few things, even past what we were budgeting. So, for example, do you rent equipment so that you stretch your cash flow, or do you go out there and buy your own bulldozer? Well, if you only have $3 million, you rent at $3,000 a week or whatever the price is. But when you raise $6 million, you can go buy a used bulldozer for $25,000 and recoup the potential rental in 8 months. So when you raise more money, you have a little more power to do things a lot more efficiently.
Yeah, but you got to have somebody local who can look after that dozer because you buy a dozer and it's sitting out in the garage, like somebody gets stolen, whatever, who knows? Yep. All kinds of chaos is possible.
You are correct.
Maybe the one question I give you too is like, the market's seen this project before. So, that's the caveat that I wonder about is like, wow, Peter, great, you're all excited, but like, Peter Bell, like what? Or maybe you're making a mistake here, Peter. Because I've told some people and they're like, "Wow, we've already seen this," and I kind of reply back and I'm like, "Well, you haven't really, I don't think, because the public company that had this before, they never really committed to this plan all the way. They they were trying to do the normal Canadian approach, like an exploration stuff, and you guys are not talking about an exploration play. You're talking about a small scale development story, and it's a fundamentally different approach."
Actually, production, not even development, production story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And and when the prior public company owned some of these assets, silver was around $10 an ounce. Oh, not an easy environment in which to raise capital.
Yeah.
Silver this morning I think was 26. A lot easier to raise capital, and that's why our financials at the end of February are going to be fascinating. Then the world will be able to figure out operating costs. If you know how much the mill can put through, if you assume 300 operating days a year, make an assumption as to grade, you'll know what the silver price is on a daily basis, and then you'll have some perspective on our costs. You can figure out margin. Anybody can figure out our cash flow.
Well, yeah, because you're not going to have an economic study. So anybody
No.
who's like, well, tell me no, we can't give you guidance. Sorry. And no, we can't call this mining either. This is just bulk sampling. So, there will be a bunch of people who will be uncomfortable about this.
Yep. It would have been impossible to assess. This is a large vein-based system. You'd have to drill the vein every 50 over a 2 kilometer
with those
walk.
grades, and you'd still be top cut. They'd still make you put a top cut on the grade.
Yeah. So we made a decision not to do a resource estimate and not to do a PEA. Let's just go to production, let the numbers speak for themselves.
I'm glad. I love it. I can't, it's so rare to find that, and the risk is like, whoa, are you guys risking a catastrophic failure?
I don't think so. This isn't.
I don't think
this
so
isn't
either.
ore in the traditional sense. These are big silver veins. You can see the vein. Easily tell the difference between the vein and the rock that it's hosted in. So it makes it a lot more difficult to go wrong.
Yeah. And the level of capital, you're not talking about a $250 million mine build.
Agreed. This is the Pat Sheridan theory, right? God bless Pat. I miss him. The mining show is not the same without him. But Pat would tell people, if you know where the mineralization is, go get it. Come to me for $1 million to drill more. Go get it. The gold's over there. Go get a backhoe. Go get a dump truck. Use the backhoe to scrape soil into the dump truck and go custom mill it or whatever phrase you want to use. And he was right. You don't need a 10 million ounce deposit. You can make money off a 50,000 ounce deposit.
But permitting, is that the impediment for most of these projects? I think it must be.
There's also ego. Nobody wants to say, I found a 50,000 ounce deposit. That's like being a manager of a preferred share mutual fund. Woohoo! But he wants to say, I found 8 million ounces, 10 million ounces, 15 million ounces.
Yeah,
I found a copper deposit grading 4% copper. So I think ego is the way. And then, of course, the economics of the larger companies picking them up. The deposits have to be of a certain size before the larger companies can direct resources to them.
Yep, that's right.
Smaller companies like us, fewer resources, far more nimble.
There's a story Ross Beatty tells about how early in his career he was trying to permit a mine that had like 100,000 ounces or something like that, and he had spent like years. And it wasn't 100,000 ounces a year; it was 100,000 ounces total. Yep. And that experience, and it's not even clear if they ever got the permits. I don't know the punchline, but it wasn't. The moral of the story was don't go after small mines.
And at Silver Bullet, we have our permits.
Yeah.
We even have a demolition permit to handle dynamite.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the most important ones too, because those explosives handlings, it's transporting the explosives on the roads and stuff like that. When you're on the patented claims, it's one thing, but moving it to site, that gets to be a little tricky. And non-explosive blasting, I think, is a useful technique they use in construction industry. I think it might have application in some of these settings when you're kind of close to people's houses and stuff, but you don't want to be putting charges in five times a week or something, like whatever your blasting schedule is. You'd be a nasty neighbor at some point in some of these settings. But it's not a concern at Buckeye. You're off in the middle, a few miles off from Globe, up in the hills. So that's not a concern on blasting side.
And one thing that you wouldn't have realized, I didn't until last, you see fires out there all the time. So what's our fire risk? We don't have one because a fire blew through this area 3 years ago and burned all the fuel. So we have zero fire risk.
Yeah.
And project. And I'm happy to be involved.
And Forest Service permitting too. Like, do you guys have permits for some of the work in the forest for exploration side?
I don't specifically know. I can find that out and get back to you.
Wow, it's even 20 acres when you're dealing with high grade stuff. You can make a lot of noise just on 20 acres when you have old adits and stuff like this too. Keeps it really simple. Sometimes I've seen juniors that have mining rights, but they don't have the surface rights as well. and thankfully you guys haven't fallen into that trap.
Nope.
The whole group there, they have enough understanding of the ins and outs of the legal land rights, right? Because these things are very different than the Canadian system.
Yes.
And I continue to see Canadians who can't really function in the U.S. environment. Even just today, a guy up in Golden Triangle, BC, and he was tweeting a video out, Rob McLeod, talking about, we just crossed over into the border in Alaska, and all of a sudden we have to put up, we have to cut lines and put monuments every markers how often. Like, yep. The difference between map staking in BC versus on the ground in Alaska, just night and day. So again, that's an impediment for Canadian juniors who think they can just roll up in Arizona and start working on some of these high grade, old mine sites.
Our local team there is very important to us.
Yeah, it really is. So do you have all the pieces of the puzzle corporate wise, or, when you go public, are you going to be ready on day one to prepare for day two, or are you ready for you coming out swinging, I think
we're ready for day 7. It's always a fascinating time when you go public, but we've lined up our pieces. I like our board. Boards always have to evolve. Doubt this one will over time, but we're ready to go. Now it's just a process of paperwork with the stock exchange.
Yeah. And have you been through RTO stuff yourself with this group?
I've been in the securities business since 1992. If I tell you I've done 300 RTOs, I'd be right within 50 either way. And yet, there's always something I learn on every transaction.
Yeah, it's been fun watching you with the shareholder activism stuff too. I think that's probably underdone, not done enough in Canada. I think we're probably a little timid about.
I agree.
The problem is it's easier to just leave it. It's just easier to leave it. It's somebody else's mess, and then that just creates a culture in the markets where it's okay, and then this is.
But that also informs our view. That informs our view of our roles as directors. The shareholders own the company. We answer to the shareholders. And that's very much a big part of our mindset. So if you answer to the shareholders on a daily basis, give your phone number out. Yeah. I give my phone number to everybody who wants one. I've had the same phone number since 1998. I will talk to any shareholder for any length of time, anytime.
They may not like what you have to say, but that's another issue.
Yeah. But that's okay. If somebody's not happy with something we're doing as a management team, I want to hear about it. You might be right, you might be wrong, but at least we can have a meaningful communication on it.
Yeah, that's what I found. And I found that like the online stuff, even sometimes when you have anonymous people chirping and saying things that seem kind of stupid, sometimes there's a grain of truth or something useful in that. And it can be difficult to listen to those people and hear them, but you can benefit from it because sometimes they're pointing out your biggest flaw, and you're like, "Oh wow, well, we can fix that. Oh, we can fix it. Well, let's fix it. Come on, guys."
So, any Silver Bullet shareholder listening to this, if you have anything to discuss, just give me a call.
Yeah, absolutely. A real treat to talk to you here, Peter, and real glad to be looking at all the stuff you guys are doing. It's unusual. There's a bunch of stuff that I see in your world there that's kind of unusual, and I like it. So
good.
Keep up the good work.
Looking forward to talking to you at the end of February. We can talk about our costs so you can extrapolate cash flow.
Yeah, I can't wait to start doing some cash flow models of you guys here. As an independent person who's not, right, there's a little bit more leeway and throw some steaks out, some raw meat to the street too. I think there's some other people that'll be happy to. And beyond the cash flow too, I encourage you to publish as much of the technical data on the projects as you can as well. There's something to be said for making the whole data room of all the technical exploration data that you have publicly available for free, because there are kind of roving geologists like Lobo, due diligence guy. They can build up their own 3D models, and they're happy to if you give them the data. So
I will take that up.
How much information?
I'll take that up with the operational side of the business.
Yeah, and I'll keep agitating for it because in these situations where you don't have a PEA or an econ or a feasibility study, anything like this, like if you make all that data available to the street, you may find that somebody anonymously produces one that was, at the same quality as what you would have paid a premium consultant for.
Yep.
So that came up with the Minera Alamos guys too. I was talking to Doug Ramshaw, and I said that to him. I was like, look, you don't have economic studies, fine. But imagine if you put all your data out there and let us internet guys just go to work, building up our 3D models, figuring out our plan of what you might do. And yeah, it's rough and it's a little scary. But you want to embrace that uncertainty and you want to embrace the crowd. I think if you get the crowd rooting for you, that's when the markets really get excited, and it's such a promotional business, right? So
yep,
playing for the crowd.
No, I'll take that up with operations. That's not my area of expertise.
A big show. Well, and it's a legal question too. Is if you take it with the operations, they might say, "Well, can we? Are we even legally allowed to do that?" So then it'll come right back under your plate, Peter, before you know it. And
well, if they ask
big
me,
shout
my
out
answer
to.
is yes.
Yeah, it's the right answer, sir. Well done. Big shout out to Investor Intel too. A lot of respect for them. I followed them for years, and I missed
Tracy does great work.
I did a call this morning with them too, and sorry I missed that, but glad that community's going along and everything continues there. It's pretty tough in the Canadian junior. It's quiet in the bear times, right? It's hard to survive, and then the bull times, it's easy to get crowded out. So
agreed.
Having again that community piece and having people who kind of understand and what their all common goal, what they're working towards, and some accountability too on who's done what in the past and whether or not we want to associate with them again in the future. These kinds of things.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
A treat to talk to you, Peter. Again soon.
Thank you for your time. Bye.